where you would want it to be. But we will make do anyway. So hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. Welcome to a live stream version of the Apptrepreneur Show. This is the podcast where we talk about apps, technology, pop culture, and life in between. I'm your host, Kevin. And this is going to be a very, very special episode. And maybe a little bit of a disappointing one, maybe a little chaotic. This one's definitely very interesting. First of all, it has been a very long time since I have done a live stream late at night. We used to do them all the time, and the times were good. So many people would stop by to chat. People don't stop by the chat quite as much, but I figured this would be a good topic to kind of reintroduce that to, at least for a few weeks. The second reason this is going to be a special episode, we are talking about a topic that I have not discussed in a long time. And many of you might even be saying like, well, I thought you were never going to talk about the topic again. And that's true to an extent. I have actually been very, very positive. Hey, Uber man, Tampa, been a long time. I've been pretty consistent about not talking about Uber. Some would say to the channel's detriment, but you know what? Life's too short. You got to talk about things, hey, Abstract Echo, that make you happy. But I did promise when I made that the rideshare bubble has burst video that in certain situations we would still talk about it. Nasty four-letter word, I agree. In certain situations, if they did something major, like they got bought out by another company, if some legislation got passed against them that was actually in the driver's favor, maybe Uber goes out of business. One thing I did hint about, though, was I said something along the lines of, I hear they're making an Uber TV series. That might be a fun thing to talk about. And sure enough, there is an Uber TV series now. It's officially a mini series right now. But I have to say, I was like, I definitely want to talk about that. Now, I wanted to talk about it last week, except without going into too many details. There was an accident and I had to go to the hospital and basically was not able to do much for a few days. Don't worry, I'm fine, nothing major. But, you know, just a little bit of advice to people out there. Don't trip overhead. Sorry, see, I'm still recovering, I guess. Don't trip on carpets and hit your head against the wall and then fall over and hit your head on the tile floor. Don't do that. That's not a good thing to do. And yes, I am wearing a door trash shirt. I figure since we were going old school, I would wear an old gig economy shirt. I could not find my Uber shirt. I think it was burned a long time ago. Tried giving these to charity. Charity didn't want them. But I figure, why not? This kind of brings back some memories. Another way that this is kind of going old school, we're not using a microphone. That's not really an old school style aesthetic choice that we are making. I cannot find the plug. So I have to get a new one, a new microphone that plugs into the iPhone, unless this one magically, is that? No, that's not it. That's the stand for the, anyway, save that shirt in case you run out of toilet paper. Awesome. So, yeah, just a lot of things. And so, anyway, the Uber show premiered last week. It's called Super Pumped, and is based off a book of the same name, Super Pumped, the Rise and Fall of Uber, something like that. Here's another funny thing. I had the iPad that I had the book on, and it wasn't charged. So, you know, can't use the phone at the same time. There's some interesting technical limitations. You'd think I wasn't doing live streams for the last 5 years or something like that. But whatever. Anyway, me and my wife watched the 2 episodes that have been made available so far. Now, it's kind of telling how far the rideshare community, if there is a community anymore, let's be honest, has kind of moved on from this topic in the sense that I don't really see anyone talking about this show. I did see Harry Campbell tweet about it. In all fairness, I haven't been to his blog in a while. No offense, Harry. I just don't have a need to go there as much anymore. But you would think that a big series on Showtime, like this is kind of one of the things that years ago we were joking about, like when we were making everyday videos about all the new drama with Travis Kalanick, all the new ways that drivers were getting screwed, all the ways that the law was basically cracking down on them. We were thinking like this would make for a great movie one of these days, and now we're here, and it's kind of a bittersweet thing. And I even think the way that the show was made kind of shows exactly how perception of Uber has changed. Back when this was all fresh and new, which was inspiring things like the hashtag delete Uber, when the drivers' rates were getting cut for the first time, and or virtually every season, and Kalanick just could not stop getting into trouble. You know, there was like a lot of uncertainty about the future of Uber. Now, Uber's in a much more stable place. Now, I'm not saying that Uber is endorsing the show, nor did they have a helping hand in creating it. They have not. I am almost certain they have not. But we are far enough away that you can kind of look back at this situation now, and for the outsider looking in, this is entertainment. It might even be a little humorous to a certain extent. So we are going to review / discuss the first 2 episodes of Super Pumped, aka Uber the TV series, from my perspective. Now, if the review is a little chaotic, if it's a little all over the place, it's because this show is chaotic and it is all over the place. But as someone who very much lived it, maybe not at the corporate level, but definitely lived during that time period, and I was reporting on this religiously every day. New videos, daily content. Remember when there was daily content on this channel? Well, it's just a very, very fascinating look to kind of see how a future generation, because think about it, some of the events starting in this that happened in this show begins in 2011. Guys, we are more than 10 years removed from when the beginning events of this show began. That is how far and how long it's been since we've been doing this. And all this time later, the drivers are in no better shape. But I found it to be, because here's the thing. If I was okay, let's say how the show starts. Let's start at the very, very beginning. The beginning starts with a very interesting scene. And I think it paints the picture of who this show is geared for. And it's pretty clear that it is not the drivers. And it's not the legislators who were aiming at Uber. It's actually the customers of Uber. This is a series that is made for riders to really get a first view, or at least a fictionalized view, of what was really happening during that time period. Now, I'm not sure if it's to make them not want to ride with Uber anymore. We'll have to see how the show ends, because Uber is under new management now. And for all I know, this show could be a look at how bad this company was when it launched years ago, and now it's not so bad. I don't know. It says, what's the movie's name? It's not a movie, it's a show. It's called Super Pumped. It is on Showtime. So here's the thing. If I were making the Uber show, and here's the thing, I am a driver, I have a bias, I do want to see this company shown in the most negative light possible, but I also have a respect for art and storytelling. So if I were making the show, I would start the show with Travis Kalanick at his first company before Uber. The one that is kind of hinted at, the one that Michael Ovitz took away from him. I think that would be a good place to start, because I do believe in the arc of a character. I do believe in showing Travis Kalanick as someone who was ambitious and hardworking, and he really cared about the Uber brand, and he worked his way up to where the company got to a certain point, and then greed and selfishness and just plain pride gets in the way, and he starts a downfall. That's where I would start it. I know it's not always the juiciest place to start. A lot of people are definitely watching the show for the drama, and it's clear that the makers want to leave an impression on the customers of Uber, not the drivers. So what is the first scene in the show? Well, the first scene in the show starts with Travis Kalanick interviewing someone, and his question, apparently he asked this question in all the interviews, he said, "Are you an a-hole?" And that's what he asked. Now, before the guy can actually answer the question, One of the co-founders of Uber, I believe, I think his name's Garrett, comes in with another Uber employee, and they bring up the safety concerns of Uber. Now, Travis Kalanick decides that, well, he doesn't decide. He goes on a rant about how we are putting like 1 million rides a day on Uber, and we have all these people. Like, can we help it if, occasionally there's going to be a driver that makes a pass at the passenger or something like that? Like, we can't control that. And that's when they say, no, 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 we have found a way to not only deal with the safety issue, we have found a way to profit from it as well. And he's like, okay, what is that? And the guy says it's called a safety rider fee. And what is a safety rider fee? Well, it is a fee we put into each ride that is supposed to go towards creating a safer environment. And how it actually works, we make a safety video or two, and then we pocket the rest. And Kalanick is overjoyed, thrilled. And the narrator, who, by the way, the narrator's Quentin Tarantino. That's bizarre. That's absolutely bizarre, but, there you go. So, but Kalanick is happy. It's like, great, you have solved a public perception problem, and you found a way to profit off of it. And then he goes into a rant, which I kind of appreciated, about that is some Michael Eisner ideas right there. And it's like, what's that? It's like, you know who Michael Eisner is? The guy's like, no, I don't know who he is. It's like, Michael Eisner was the CEO of Disneyland. First thing he did when he got to be CEO, he charged $1 a day to park at Disneyland. Parking had always been free, and people were complaining it's un-American, it's a ripoff, but yet they kept paying the parking because they want to go to Goofy for their kids. And he's like, and we are Disneyland. We are Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Minnie, everyone all rolled in the run. And like the Disneyland parking that just kept going up, 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 we are going to keep raising that safety rider fee up, 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 and we're not going to be doing anything because what is a safety rider fee? You're just paying extra money. You're paying a fee that the ride's going to be safe. Which on a personal level, if you have an unsafe Uber ride, I think the safety rider fee should really be like an insurance. Like, you should get your money back if that ride's not there. But anyway, that is the very first scene of this Uber TV series. And I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what it's going to be. It's going to focus on how Uber screwed the public, and it's going to show how really almost disrespectful Travis Kalanick was of life, and he lacked common decency. This is what the show is going to be about. It's not even really that interested in Uber itself. It is interested in the, how should I put this? In basically how Travis Kalanick, excuse me folks, I gotta, if my mods are there, please please remove people like that. But I know I don't have as many moderators coming on as I used to. Got to get rid of those idiots. But anyway, so this is what the show is going to be about. I don't even know if it's going to necessarily be about Uber itself. In fact, one of the really interesting things about watching the show, and now this is where we're going to start jumping around a little bit, because again, this show jumps around. It jumps around from later years to early years. It's just a chaotic mess. But in episode 2, which is when they begin the episode basically on Oregon's crackdown of Uber drivers and giving them fines and towing their vehicles and all that jazz, Uber does get into Uber deciding to launch Grayball. Now, for those of you who are Uber drivers around the time, and who maybe you've been watching my channel at the time, you all know what Grayball is and what it was and what it was used for. And the show, it's kind of weird. The show kind of assumes that you know what Grayball is. It kind of describes how it works, but not really. It basically says Grayball can be used to evade law enforcement. It doesn't really get into how it works. They just say it's a few codes in the app. It doesn't even get that much into the legality of it. Someone asks if it's illegal, and Kalanick says there's nothing illegal about breaking laws that don't make sense, which probably was his attitude at the time. You watch a scene like this, though, was a little bit of strangeness. Like, what? Why is this a big deal? Like, the show is not really getting into what was so severe about Great Ball. Why was it this thing that really came to bite them once it was discovered? By the way, I do see in the comments some people are asking what happened to Geo, aka the American Gigolo. I don't know. I don't know. I actually have reached out out of curiosity, but I don't know. If I was to make a personal guess, I think he decided not to do rideshare anymore. You know, I think comedy and movie reviews was his real passion. He might be working on those. I don't know exactly, but you know, I know he's missed. I know he's missed because once in a while people ask me, guys, we may have patched our differences up, but we're by no means best friends or anything like that. So I don't know any more than you do. Anyway, let's get back to the show. And by the way, if any of you have seen this show, there's only 2 episodes. It's on Showtime. Feel free to comment on things in the show that stood out to you, because we would like to discuss this show and how it does and does not reflect our gripes with Uber. Now, one of the things that's interesting, I do think the show will eventually get into the drivers and their problems with Uber and how Uber started screwing them. Because early in the first episode, when Travis Kalanick is meeting with the money guy, and by the way, the guy who played the money guy, Bill Gers, I think his name is. I don't know these people's name, but he was like the big venture capitalist that really got Uber started. That guy asked about the drivers, and Kalanick says, our relationship with the drivers is great. We're doing everything right with them. We are the model for how we do it right. Now, the funny thing is my wife laughed at that scene. But the weird thing is he wasn't lying. At the time, the relationship with drivers was really good. The only thing I would disagree with, of course, is when the guy asks, I think his name was Bill, asks, what about the tip? And Kalanick is like, there's no tip required. It's seamless. That's how good we pay the drivers. We pay the drivers so well, they don't need a tip. Yeah, and I'm sure that was the thought process. It wasn't, we just don't want to pay for credit card transaction fees to add a tip on. I'm sure that's not at all what it was. But to a certain extent, I understood where this scene was coming from, because at the time, the drivers were treated right. We were paid very well. In fact, some people don't even understand why I obsess so much about this company years after it stopped being good. And it's like, you almost have to be there, like, and understand. This was a great, great job. We got extra money. I was able to become my own boss. I mean, I really was making a lot of money. I would only work on the weekends, and I would make enough money each week to pay the rent, buy the groceries, buy tons of useless, like, you can see some of those video games right there, video games, movies. Uber paid well. And so this scene did ring true. But then at the end of the second episode, Kalanick sees a bunch of cars with pink mustaches. And by the way, on a side note, one of the cars at the end of the second episode had like one of those pink mustache dashboard lights. I still have that thing, and that's a goof because those things didn't come around until a few years later. So that shows that I am still, unfortunately, very knowledgeable about this particular company. But Kalanick sees the Lyft drivers. He asks one of the drivers, hey, buddy, I'm an Uber driver. Why are you driving for Lyft? And the guy hands him a piece of paper and says, Lyft pays me better and I get tips. I never got tips with Uber. And Kalanick pulls out the phone and says, I'm going to war with Lyft. They are stealing my drivers. I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen. So, even though the first couple episodes are not concerned with the drivers, I'm assuming at one point it will be, because these are not things you put in if you plan to not address it at all. These are things you put in precisely because you are going to delve into that in the show later on. By the way, hi George, thank you. Katie's doing fine. She's over there. She's letting me have the room so we can talk about the show. Now, aside from that, the first two episodes, for the most part, don't discuss the passengers or the drivers that much. In fact, the only other time that the passengers are really brought into the show is when Kalanick realizes he can weaponize the riders, to go after the San Francisco mayor and all these politicians. It does get into that, decision where they were once Uber cab and realized that they could avoid taxi regulations by just calling themselves Uber. And it's like, we're not a taxi company. We are a ride share company. We are a company that shares rides. Is that legal? Well, it works. Who cares? We're gonna do it anyway. And you could see the seeds of deceit, not only to the world, but really to themselves, starting to form. And then the next couple episodes, the rest of the show actually deals primarily with how Kalanick is a brash boss. He doesn't like taking orders. He's throwing all these crazy parties. He hires a couple of very well knowledgeable and also very attractive lawyers who go to defend them at every corner, but then behind the scenes basically gripe and grumble about how basically the company sucks. But oh well, working for this company is going to buy them a house. And that's kind of, there's actually a really funny scene where Kalanick has to sign off on all these expenses for the 10 billionth ride or some party like that. It was a ride where they got Beyonce to perform for the Uber employees because Jay-Z and Beyonce ended up investing in Uber and all that jazz. And they're he's signing off on papers like destruction of property, nudity, and probably the funniest one, they actually charged him to clean the pool because Uber employees threw a keg of beer off one of the balconies and into the pool. And Bill, who's, again, he's the venture capitalist, he's giving them the money to do this. He's looking at the pool and he's looking up and he's kind of like, is that even possible? And Kalanick just shrugs they're engineers, man. They know their math. What can I say? And that was a really funny scene. I also, if I remember correctly, that Las Vegas party ended up costing $25 million or something like that. It was absolutely insane. It's yeah. So anyway, now that we've talked about the show a little bit, what about the actors? Well, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is okay as Travis Kalanick. He definitely has the attitude and the brashness. I can definitely see Travis acting like this. Ironically, the guy who plays Bill, I think his name's Kyle Reeves. He was in Friday Night Lights. Correct me if I got that name wrong, but I think it's Kyle Reeves or something like that, or Ives. Anyway, that guy looks a heck of a lot more like Travis Kalanick than Gordon Joseph Levitt. Granted, he's also probably too old to play Kalanick, admittingly. I just think it's very weird that the guy who's playing Kalanick is acting alongside a guy that looks like the real life Travis Kalanick. It's a very weird thing to me. It's almost funny, to be honest. I don't know who the actress is, but the actress who plays Kalanick's girlfriend, she was very good. She has a small role. She's not as front and center, but she's probably the closest thing to a sympathetic character that you have as someone who's basically supporting Travis and his crazy dreams. And basically, she senses that she's being pushed off to the side. When he breaks up with her, she's sad, but she's not so terribly surprised. She even, like, before she leaves the room says, "I guess I was some of your seed money," and walks out. And, she seems like such a nice person that, like, like, why on earth would a decent human being get rid of a girl like her? Another actress in the show who's very good is the person who plays Kalanick's mother. The person who, in some ways, saves Uber. Because when Uber is running out of money, she's the one who convinces him to go to Bill and says, "How can your venture capitalists trust you if you will not trust them?" And it's an interesting scene to watch because I don't know if a conversation like that happened in real life, but if it did, basically Kalanick's mother saved Uber. And I don't know if we should thank her for that. I really don't. And of course, the guy who plays Bill is very, very good. I can definitely tell that he's going to be kind of the anti-hero in this, in the sense that Kalanick is the main star, but we're really going to be rooting for Bill to take him down before this thing is over. And yeah, this guy's got a lot of money, and judging by how little the company has actually improved on any of the problems that Travis Kalanick started when Bill took over, I think that shows where his heart is in terms of the drivers and rider safety and things like that. But he does strike you as a decent human being, at least so far. And he is concerned about the direction of the company. And so he's going to become like a perfect little foil to Kalanick. At the end of the day, I'm not completely sure how I think about this series just yet. And I think it's partly because, again, I lived it, I reported on it, and it's not the show I would have made. There's a couple different shows I would have made. The first is, like, I would have really done a history of Travis Kalanick, like, make him like the underdog hero and see the fall from grace. They're not really doing that. They're jumping all over the place. In fact, they're kind of making it pretty clear early on he's not supposed to be liked. And yet, you watch certain scenes, like where they're running out of money and stuff, and yet you see those scenes and you feel like you are supposed to be rooting for him, but you're not rooting for him. And so it creates like a little problem, if you know what I mean. The other thing I would make it about how the company was really, truly predatory on the customers and the drivers. Now, that might still be coming. I think this is a 6-episode series, and there's plenty to go around. So that might still be a thing that happens. And by the way, we will be doing these weekly live streams every week until the show is done. So for those of you who miss Uber content, some of it is in a sense coming back. So there you go. But so far, that's not really happening either so far. Right now, this show is basically looking at Travis Kalanick and all the terrible things he's doing, excuse me, and that's going to be its source of entertainment. And so far, it's not exactly commentary. It's not exactly storytelling. What it is the beginning of a train wreck. And I guess that's my biggest concern for this show, that it's going to be focusing so much on Kalanick's antics that it's going to ignore the consequences of those antics. In fact, I would be very, very disappointed on a personal level. I know they don't have to do this, and they probably won't do this because it doesn't make for good television, but I would be personally disappointed if at the end of the series it has like one of those title screens that basically says that Uber is a much better place to work, it's a much better company, when really the problems never got solved. We did get rid of Kalanick, and a lot of us were happy when Kalanick was booted. But other UberTubers, smart UberTubers, were right to caution that just because Kalanick is leaving, it does not instantly make Uber a better place to work. And that was true. I mean, how many good things came out of Uber after Kalanick was ousted? I mean, they added tipping. That's positive. But really nothing else happened. I mean, once laws and legislation started getting written, then Uber started doing things like telling you how much you would make up front and where your destination was going. They basically wanted to prove that you were an independent contractor, even though you are not. You were not, are not, and probably never will be at this point. But then, of course, when legislation got defeated, Uber, of course, took away those perks because they didn't need us to have them anymore. Kind of like when Facebook dismantled their misinformation team after the elections because, there's no possible way that their platform could be used for nefarious means now that the election is over. So, all these companies, they kind of do the same thing. They will put these safety features into play when they need something, but then once they get what they need, they take them away. And of course, drivers fell for it. And I had some drivers tell me that I wasn't thinking this through. Like with AB5, have you really thought this through? Have you thought about the consequences of it passing? And I asked, have you thought about the consequences of it not passing? Which a lot of people didn't. And then when it didn't pass, or did it pass? See, it's been a while. I think AB5 actually did pass, and it was not passing that would have been beneficial for the drivers. Well, once AB5 passed, then Uber took away a lot of those features that you liked because you didn't need them anymore. They got what they wanted. They were exempt from independent contract or employment classification, and so yeah. But anyway, boy, it's been so long. I'm starting to forget the finer details of some of the things that happened. Can you believe it's been 3 years since AB5? Man. Wow. Sometimes you really stop and you think about how fast time flies. This thing seemed like yesterday. It wasn't. It was almost 3 years ago. Maybe it was 3 years ago for all I know. So anyway, let me see. Not a lot of comments so far. So folks, that's kind of my discussion about Super Pumped. I'm going to continue watching it, and we're going to continue talking about it. In fact, next week we'll probably start a little earlier because I don't think we should be starting this late anymore. So yeah, for those of you who want Uber content again, for at least 4 more weeks on Sundays, you will get Uber content. And maybe more if this show gets renewed. Who knows? But anyway, now that we're kind of talking about that, we actually have a dozen people in the live stream today. Thank you so much for coming here and joining me. And let's see, are there any topics we want to discuss before I sign off? I mean, in the past, we used to do this for an hour. I don't know if I can stretch this to an hour, but if we have some good conversations, maybe we can. That it would actually put this podcast / live stream on par with a episode of Super Pumped itself. Thank you for the likes, by the way. I see 8 people have liked it. Very, very much appreciated. Gary Grudzian said, where can we watch the series? So you can watch the series on Showtime. Now, some of you might be thinking that, Showtime's expensive, right? It's actually really not. If you sign up for the app, they usually give for new users 4 months at $3.99 a month for new people, usually. Or if you have Amazon Prime Video, then you can add Showtime onto that, or Hulu for $8 extra a month. And of course, you don't have to keep it forever. You can get rid of it when you have watched the show. By the way, the Dexter revival is also on Showtime, and this is the ending we should have gotten the last time. I know we don't talk about Dexter on this series, but that was a good show too. Hey, Orion's Treasures, how are you doing? And let's see here. Is there a way I can oh, that's how you do it. It's been so long. Starlight, no more independent contractor, 1099 for Cali. I don't know. Honestly, I have not been keeping up to date with it. I'm, pretty much, hey, Ryan, can you block Naked HD just remove that person from the chat. They're just going to spam it. So it's a bot. What can I say? But anyway, any other comments? Any other questions? You know, I do miss these. I do miss these. So thank you, Brian. Timed out. Oh, you just timed them out. Next time, when they come back, I guess there a way I can just ban that person. You know, let me see if there's just a way I can ban them. Hide user on this channel. There we go. So that's how you take care of annoying people like that. So they probably have another bot account they're going to jump back on in a few minutes, but you know, you do what you can, right? So anyway, Hamster Reel says, how do you think people will drive Uber with these gas prices? Well, if they're smart, they won't drive for Uber, or they'll have a hybrid, which I now have a hybrid. Interestingly, if you have a hybrid or pure electric, you can technically make some money from Uber and Lyft because you're not buying gas or you're not buying as much. But, you know, the gas prices are going up, you know, primarily because of that completely unjustified war that Putin, I really feel bad for those people. Putin's a monster. But primarily because of that, gas prices are going up. And they're probably going to continue to go up because one of the things that is on the table is to basically not buy any more gas from Russia. And Russia is the third largest supplier of gas. So how much is gas in Cali where you are? Well, I was at the pump a couple days ago. Granted, it was at a Costco, and Costco tends to be a little cheaper, but I was paying $4.55 a gallon. But most gas stations are over $5 a gallon, and I anticipate it will get to $6 a gallon before too long. And yeah, it's going to hurt us. People are going to have to start making less trips. In fact, if anything, I know that a lot of companies are really eager to get people back into the office. I think rising gas prices are going to make people push back on that a little bit because when they get that high, you don't want to be driving anywhere that's not absolutely necessary. And I mean, for me, like my job, I've been doing it at home for like 2 years now, and my wife 3, basically. So if they asked me to come back to the office, I would probably argue that a little bit because I don't really want to with the gas prices. I don't really want to. I'm hearing in Cali it's over $7. Is that true? Maybe in San Francisco and LA. I haven't checked personally. To be honest, gas, I don't think that much about, I have not been thinking that much about the gas prices because since we got the hybrid, a full tank of gas gets us over 700 miles to the tank. And I'm not saying we don't feel it when we go to the pump, but now that we're not going to the pump every 2 weeks and it's like more like once a month, it's so much more manageable. And the funny thing is my dad was trying to convince us not to get a hybrid. He was concerned about the battery and things like that. And I was kind of like, Dad, and I didn't know we were going to war. I didn't know that Putin was going to destroy the world or try to. But I told that, Dad, look, gas prices are just always going to go up. Like, we're going to have this dance all the time. And frankly, we're at the point where you can't afford not to get a hybrid. And when we get Katie her next car, it'll be an electric. It'll be the commuter car. So we'll basically save the hybrid for when we go to Vegas or Sacramento or something like that. And the electric will be used for our everyday traveling. We are doing what we can to get away from gas as much as possible. So Ryan says, you're welcome. I'm doing good. I always enjoy watching your videos, but it's even better getting a check. Yes, it is. It always is. Although technically you have my phone number, so you can call once in a while if you want. Let's see here. George says, I am at 369 and I drive a hybrid. Well, the hybrid definitely helps relieve some of that burden. It won't do it forever, especially if I, let me put it this way. I would not be terribly surprised if gas gets to $10 a gallon. There's nothing that suggests it will, but things are very volatile right now. So people should be redoing their gas budget, and they should really start thinking twice about making unnecessary trips, or if they have to go out, find the most efficient way to get the most out of your mileage. And getting the most out of that mileage includes not driving for any of these gig companies. I mean, shoot. If there is another news story I talk about when it comes to Uber, it will be because Uber is stubbornly not giving you the rate increase you absolutely need more than ever. And if they don't do this, that should really show you why it is imperative that if you have not gotten out of this, get out of it now. Don't wait. There's no reason to wait anymore. All right, let's see here. So, hamster wheel, do you think people should consider selling their gas car soon? I have a second car and feel they are forcing energy efficient cars on the population. So should I sell? Well, an energy efficient car should always be the end goal. I mean, yes, it's better for the environment. It's also better for you. You are not paying as much. They are not doing this to make you get an energy efficient car. I see some people saying that no, the gas is going up because there is a war with the biggest country, or one of the three biggest companies in the world that sells gas. That is why the gas prices no, we are at war with them, and we are not doing business with them because they are senselessly murdering people. Murdering people senselessly. That is why the gas is going up. Now, that said, I have been watching that situation as it pertains to cars, and it is true that as a result of this war, that means Congress and other nations, they are pivoting. They were always trying to eventually, keyword being eventually, get to be all their cars hybrid and electric. By 2035, I think they wanted to basically not be reliant on fossil fuels anymore. Well, because of what's going on right now, like, they are speeding up that process. They are speeding up that process. And yeah, I do think people with gas cars are unfortunately going to get a little screwed in this scenario, because it's just going to make the gas more in demand, the less of it we can get. So, you know, I mean, my whole thing is, frankly, there are bigger issues in the world right now than the gas. At the same time, I also acknowledge that the gas prices really hurt people. I mean, extra gas means that maybe you're eating out a couple times less a month. Maybe your grocery budget gets cut by $50 a trip. Maybe, you know, you don't go out to the movie theaters to see the Batman. Maybe you wait for HBO Max. I mean, it's much nicer to see in theaters, but it's not with the gas prices weighing you down. Maybe you don't want to spend $19 to see the Batman. Just stream it when it comes home. Like, it's going to affect things. Like, there's two things that always affect the economy: gas prices and the minimum wage. And unfortunately, the gas prices are going to go up for a while. And it's especially because I still have gig economy workers who subscribe to this channel. I know I do, because you always leave comments like, why are you talking about credit cards? Aren't you going to talk about Uber? And like, no, I'm not going to talk about Uber, except when it's a TV show now, apparently. But I do know that for those people who are still in here, in this business, I really wish you had gotten out when I told you. But now you really want to get out, because you are going to get so screwed. And if you think Uber is going to raise the prices to help you out, you are out of your mind. They have never helped when it comes to the gas going up. And they're not going to help you now. You know, I know there was a tweet by George Takei, a Star Trek actor. And he said that he was willing to put up with higher gas prices if it'll hurt Putin. I understand the sentiment. I also think he needs to understand there are some people who, yeah, if they could afford that, they would, but they can't. And so this is really stressing them out. So I'm sorry, got like like a bug flew in my ear. All right, but anyway, let's go back. No, don't worry about it, Brian. You got there as fast as you could. Um, Now George has recommended to Hamster Wheel that you sell the gas car while people want it. That's good advice. Gary says, with the cost of the electric cars and the electricity go up if the demand for electric cars increases. Maybe, but there's a big difference between gas cars and electric cars, and that's the sense that there's many different ways to produce electricity. Um, and some of them, you know, you can buy up front. Like one of the things that Tesla is doing, and Tesla is an amazing company, by the way. I have stock in Tesla, full disclosure, but they are a very amazing company. One of the things, because they're seeing one of the problems, they are actually they've developed a product like an electricity store. Like you can install these electricity stores, and they're literally there for rainy days. Like you put the solar panels on your roof, and not only do the solar panels provide electricity throughout the day, but it is also storing electricity in these storage containers so that if it's raining, you can use electricity without having to rely on the electric company as much. So there are ways to get electricity from the sun, from wind, from gravity, you know, nuclear. There are still some nuclear plants out there. They might hold off on shutting some of them down now because nuclear is very clean electricity. Right now, the biggest concern is the electric grid. The electric grid is not really prepared for everyone owning an electric car right now. But now there is a new innovation called smart charging. And I don't know exactly how it works, but apparently it's very efficient, it's easy to do, and it reduces the stress of the grid by some 80%. It is insane. So if it's not ready yet, it will be soon. Especially, again, since there's a war, and even if Putin pulled out tomorrow, we would want to send a very strong message. We basically know at this point he can't be trusted. So until Putin's gone, and who knows when that would be, we're not going to be doing business with Russia. So we're going to have to be developing these things faster now. And there's a financial incentive to do it now. And, you know, I think things will ultimately be fine. There is a possibility, though, that the cost of electricity will go up. But would it be more expensive than gas? Super unlikely. All right, let's see here. George says Uber and Lyft are graveyard for the drivers. Yep. He also says EV makes sense every time the price of oil is above $70 per barrel. Yeah. Now, there is, of course, one more issue with electric, and this is why we did not get the electric car when we finally sold the Corolla. And that is, we do take a lot of road trips, and the range for the electric vehicles just is not there yet. So we wanted to fall back on gas. That's why our current plan is once we get the second car in a year or two, it'll be electric, and that will be the commuter car. And the commuter car is the car that you drive around town when you're not making a long trip. But if you need to make a long trip, then you use the hybrid car because you can fall back on the gas if you need to. Well, thank you, Gary. I appreciate that you still find them interesting. So like the rest of this week's videos are not going to be like this one. Again, I have pretty much moved on from Uber and Lyft. This is just a very special occasion because it's not every day that you kind of get to revisit your old videos on a network, a premium channel network of all things. So, okay, we've got 10 minutes left. How many gallons of gas are in one barrel? I have no idea. No, I have no idea. I'm sure you could do a simple search on that one, although I'm also sure it depends on the size of the barrel. So, I assume that there's a standard gas barrel size out there, but I don't know. I just really don't. So I can tell you're very concerned about the gas prices. Can you break down how to understand the correlation between the price of gas? No, I have no idea how to do that. And so here's the thing, hamster wheel. I am definitely sensing that you are very much concerned about gas. I don't know if you're still a rideshare driver. If you are, my simple assessment without really doing it is you can't afford to be doing it right now. I mean, if think about it if gas in California went up from like $3.50 a gallon to $6 a gallon in less than a year, and Uber has not made any attempt whatsoever to give you more money, that really shows where your heart is. And the thing is, your tips might be going down too because people can't afford to tip as much because they're suffering at the gas sink. Heck, if anything, Uber's going to charge more for the rides, but you're just not going to get any of it. That's what they do. That's what they've always done. So look, if it's everyday planning that you're worried about the gas, you just have to readjust how you do things. If there's a remote work option where you work, take advantage of it or ask for it. If you're going to go out to get something, see if there's other things you can get on the way that you would normally make a few different trips to do. Try to make it a one-day thing and save some distance. If it's rideshare, it's a losing game. There's just no way. But yeah, if you can't afford a hybrid, get out of rideshare, rethink how many trips you take and what you spend those trips on, save for the hybrid. If you can afford a hybrid, I recommend getting it. I know that's probably going to be a little bit more difficult now. It wasn't easy when we got the hybrid. Like, we were literally at the car lot. We saw a hybrid. We liked it. We said, we'll take it. And it was sold out from under us. Someone decided to buy it while we were doing the test drive. So we had to do the next one. Thankfully, they had a second one to sell us. But, and we love that car, but it did cost a few $1,000s more than what we were planning to do. So, have you seen The Batman yet? I'm interested to know if you enjoy it. Yes, I very much enjoyed The Batman. My print review will be on my website, www.icritic.net. Spoiler, I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was very, very good, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again. In fact, I have another video to make about that video because about that movie because I actually saw it with someone semi-famous. So that was a very cool thing. Hey, Slick Nick, how are you doing tonight? We've got about 7 minutes left, and then I got to bring this to a close. So if there's any other questions about something other than the gas prices, because I can't control the gas prices, and I can't tell you how much more the gas costs in relation to how many miles. You're just going to have to figure that out by yourself, unfortunately. But if we have any final questions, we will be getting it to an hour, something like that. By the way, Ryan, I might as well show you. I did get the Chippendale Blu-ray. Been enjoying it. I was actually very amazed. They cleaned it up so well. Like, I thought that they would just slap the standard definition of the TV series on the Blu-ray and call it a day, and I would probably be okay with that. But they did like a real top to bottom HD restoration. And I was trying to think of why did that at the last minute get like a general retail release? It dawned on me. The reason it's getting a general retail release, and even a release at all when you get down to it, is because the movie's coming out. There's going to be a Disney Plus movie, and that's why I got this treatment. So let's see here. So Paul says, what do you do nowadays? Well, I mean, you can watch my other videos. You might not be getting them because you don't ring the bell, but if you want to ring the bell, you can ring the bell. I still talk about technology and credit cards and entrepreneurship, eBay, Mercari. I still do all of that. I just don't talk about rideshare much anymore. There is a story about Airbnb that I will probably make a video on because I think it's an interesting one. I also talk about social media, but I'm probably not going to do that for much longer because I'm getting tired of every time that I make a video about like Truth Social or something and I have the audacity to not like Donald Trump. Like I get all these comments like, "Oh, like what are you? You're not like one of the greatest presidents." Like, I don't like the guy. He did some good things, but and what's really making me annoyed is that I really get annoyed how like it's almost cultish. Like people just they can't take the fact that I wouldn't like him for whatever reason. So, you know, I I'm kind of giving up the ghost of that. I mean, people's attitudes make me want to comment more, but at the same time, it's kind of a headache I don't really need. So, um, but yeah, I've got stories about eBay, Mercari, Airbnb, all in the works. I actually edited a video about an American Express business card you do not want because they do exist. I know American Express tends to be like the gold standard for credit cards and they give you the best ones, especially for entrepreneurs, but this one's just really bad. So I actually edited that today. I was going to upload it tomorrow. I even made a joke like, hey, I'm back on camera again. And that's obviously not going to make any sense now that we're doing this live stream. And I'm going to delay till Wednesday because I have to get a new microphone for the iPhone and it's going to take a couple days to get here. So might as well spread out the content, if you know what I mean. But thank you. You can also see me at the Apptrepreneur Media. That's where I talk about Netflix, DVDs, Blu-rays, streaming services in general. So, And then iCritic is a channel that I'm kind of, I'm starting to do more of my movie stuff, some movie reviews, some movie commentaries. So I'm still busy. I'm not getting the views that I used to get. I totally acknowledge that. My day in the sun may have come and gone. Who knows? Maybe I'll eventually rebuild it. You never know. I mean, I just know that, yeah, Uber basically not being relevant for a while, that ended up being a problem. And I'm not the only one. Most of my friends, they used to get so much more views than I did. Mark's talked about it. He's been very open about how, we used to make a lot of money on these channels. And then when Uber kind of became not a thing, we stopped making money. And so it just happens. It happens. So let's see if there's any more questions. We've got a few minutes left. Let's see here. George says, hamster wheel, depending on the quality of the oil, one barrel produces around 16 gallons of gas. The rest of the oil is used to produce a lot of other products. Well, there's your answer as best as it can be, I suppose. So she's at almost 9:30 and oh boy. I also remember, I'm going to say this and this is actually a good way to end the episode. Because some people say that, I don't miss rideshare very much. No, I do terribly miss rideshare. I missed when it paid good and I missed being my own boss because you know what? Now I got to get up early. I got to get up at 4:30 tomorrow morning. This is why you don't see late live streams anymore, things like that, because this is why you don't see as much content from me as I used to do, just in general. Because when I was doing rideshare, I was making enough money to only work a few days a week. And then you coupled that with the YouTube channel. And it was very good. It was very good. It allowed me a lot of freedom. I was basically living the life that I wanted to live. It sucks to have to go back to a day job or really a morning to very early afternoon job. It kind of sucks. I miss being my own boss in that regard. On the other hand, now I'm married with an absolutely wonderful person and life is so much better. Like, if I have to work a 12-hour job every day, to help support her, I would gladly do it because she makes my life that much better. Anyway, folks, we are now at the hour mark. So we are going to end the live stream / podcast here. But good news, there will be more videos this week. And next Sunday, it'll probably be earlier. It'll probably be closer to like 7 o'clock next Sunday. But next Sunday, we will be back to talk about Super Pumped episode 3. So if you haven't seen the show yet, you can see it on Showtime. There's 2 episodes up right now. The next episode will be up next Sunday, and we will be here to discuss it once again. And by the way, I don't think I expressed this enough, but for those of you who are still subscribed, who still come to these live streams, who still comment, thank you so much for doing so. It still feels good. Yeah, I remember when these live streams used to be 100, but if you have a couple dozen really good people conversing, these can be just as much fun. So thank you so much for joining. I keep hitting my knee, and I shouldn't do that because that probably sounds bad. We'll work on that next week. So anyway, thank you, take care, and flame.